I want to apologize. I'm missing the beginning video of basically this thing together on the bench, and then I talk about I got to take it apart and add the Crossfire Nano and remove the DJI transmitter stuff. So we really didn't miss out too much.
All right, so we got her all taken apart here. Got the top plate off. Got the TPU pieces pulled off the standoffs. Got the ductwork off, and unsoldered the signal. The signal and the signal ground for the DJI transmitter. So those two wires are unsoldered from the flight controller, and I will depin them from the Molex back here and get rid of them completely. I've got some tape on the motors, so we're not flipping solder balls into that. Let's pull this flight controller out. Just going to slide him out, and then we're just going to bring him over here. Put them there, and then I just like to give myself a little insurance. Put a little tape in there in case we flip something down in there. It don't melt right to something. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and start soldering on the flight controller. I'm going to clean up this solder a little bit, put some fresh solder balls there, and then on the receiver, we have the TBS Nano receiver here. Crossfire. The solder work here, I'm going to go ahead and get it cleaned up and put some new solder on there. And also, you want to make sure, if you ever power this up, you want to make sure your antenna's on. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and fix the solder on this real quick. So, I'll go ahead and zoom in so you can get a good look at what I'm doing here. So, I got my soldering iron tip. It's about the size of tip I use for that. You just want to keep in mind that your solder tip should at least be the size of the pad. If your solder tip's too big, then it'll cross bridges and everything. If it's too small, it won't heat the pad up enough, and you won't flow the solder real quick. You'll just heat up the component or whatever you're working on. So we got our solder tip. I'm running, I don't know if you can see that or not. I'm running 200 degrees Celsius. And the first thing I want to do is just kind of clean up this solder. So this board is actually, the receiver is actually tilted down that direction. Okay. So if any solder were to run off or whatever, it's going to go down off that way. So I just got a little bit of an angle. And then I'm going to go ahead and clean this up. And to clean this up, I'm just going to take a little bit of flux. I have some flux paste here. And this is what I use. Just rosin paste. Okay. So I'm just going to take a little rosin paste. I'm going to get these joints heated up a little. Well, that one there's got a little junk on it. Get my tip cleaned off here. Alright. Now I'm going to flip that over. I'm going to take the solder off my tip. I'm going to make sure that my tip is solder free. I know it looks like there's a little on there, but that's just, that's a good looking tip. Really old, but good looking tip. But there's no solder on it. So that way I'll wick all the solder off of the component here. Taking that off. You don't need that much solder on there. Okay. Alright, we're looking good, so we're ready to go ahead and put some wires to this. Now, the wires that came with it, these wires here, let me get something dark here. See that? That wire's too long. I wouldn't put that on there. So right here, you can see solder here, and it's too long. So I'm going to pause the film here, and I'm going to cut every single one of these wires, both ends. I'm going to trim quite a bit off of it. All right, so now in the quadcopter, you kind of want to figure out where exactly are you going to put this. You know, I'm gonna shrink wrap this and then put sticky on the back side here. So I want my wires to come out on this side. So I pretty much did a dry fit on the quadcopter of where I wanted this placed. So that determined which side I'm going to put the wires on. And of course your wires can only go on, you know, where they're allowed to go. So just determine which side. So there is some thought process there. Let's go ahead and get these soldered up real quick here. If you don't go quick enough, it'll burn it off. Okay. Alright, so we got our ground on. Put our 5-volt on. Okay. And then this pad right here is the T1 pad, and this is the R1 pad. Okay. So I am going to use the white on the T and the yellow on the R. I'm gonna just add a very tiny amount of solder to that pad. Okay. And then when I'm putting them down on the board, I'm not laying them flat against the board. I'm actually pointing at an angle. So that wire, okay, let me see if I can show this on the film without, instead of putting that pad, you know, like this stick is representing the end of that pad, okay, the flush end of it. Instead of putting that wire on it flat, that's not what I'm doing. I'm actually soldering it on at an angle, like that. See that? I'm soldering it in at an angle. So that way there's airspace underneath the wires. That wire's not touching the board. It's not touching other components. It's not able to swing over and touch something else. It's actually stuck up out of there at like a 45-degree angle. I know it's like impossible to see that on this film, but that's the best I can describe it to you. See, that's dry. I almost tried to go after that because I'm busy talking. Gotta make sure you grab a little bit of flux here. Otherwise, you're gonna just sit on that pad too long. It's not gonna transfer the heat for you. So these are all wired up now. And now I'm gonna just grab a hold of that, set him down on the bench. And then I'm gonna grab my 5-volt source. I'm gonna put 5 volts to this right now to make sure that we get lights, and I can bind it to the transmitter too. So we got a blinking light here. Okay. So that looks good. Get this baby in the quadcopter. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom back out a little. So we're over here to the flight controller now, and just looking at some of the shininess on this board here. This board has a conformal coating of some sort on it. Some of these pads here look pretty dry, so I'm kind of thinking that's not conformal coating, but that might be resin from some work that was previously done. So I'm just going to scratch at it a little bit. Not very, not deep. You don't want to scratch between the traces. But it looks like that's flux. So I'm going to dig a little deeper and just make sure that there's not conformal coating on there, because if there is, I'm going to have to scrape all that off. No, those solder points look to be fairly clean. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the soldering iron, kind of clean them up a little bit, and then I'm going to scrub brush them a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to grab my soldering iron, grab me a little flux. Okay. Yuck. Alright, so we have RX1, TX1, ground, and 5 volts. So those are the 4 we're going to need. So I'm gonna get some nice solder on here. First I want to clean up this. I'm going to put my soldering iron at 250. I'm going to go ahead and clean that up with a scrub brush and some alcohol. And then I'll apply a new coating of solder. So our alcohol and scrubby. I just got a little cap of isopropyl alcohol. Gonna clean all that off of there. Okay. Now I'll come in, clean up the tip. I'm gonna run up 200. 200 degrees Celsius is good enough. Okay. So we got our solder ready to go, and we have our receiver. So we have our wiring for our receiver. Now, it's pretty obvious to know that, you know, the ground here, that ground is you know, your black, and then the 5 volt is this one here. Okay, so it's pretty simple to know that that's the way that's supposed to go. This is TX and RX, so channel 1, channel 2. So the TX, which is your white one, is going to go to the RX of the flight controller, and then your RX of your receiver is going to go to your TX of your flight controller. Okay, so basically we're going to go black, red, white, and yellow. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and solder those in. Make sure our tip is nice and clean. If your tip don't look like that, then don't solder it. Channel 1. Alright, so we're all soldered up. I think we're pretty much done with solder. I'm going to go ahead and put some shrink tubing. I'll take this antenna off. I'll put some shrink tubing on it, and then put the antenna back on, shrink that down. Oh, it should be. I hope you can get it. You can see a good look at how this is wired up. So, okay. All right. So we got everything buttoned up there. I'm just gonna give these a little twist. I got shrink wrap on my receiver. Got my antenna on, and then on this side here, I've got some. This is Gorilla Tough and Clear. Amazing product. Absolutely amazing. It can handle so much heat. It's silicone and it's really sticky, but if you pull the corner of it, it doesn't rip components off your stuff. So it's just really nice to work with. And you know, I do a lot of reworking, so I'm always having to fix something broken. And I used to use I have a pile of 3M stuff over there, and it would rip components off or it would leave a residue. You know, a year later, you're having to replace something. I haven't had any issues with that stuff, and now it's been a long time using it. So I basically thought putting the receiver right here on the side of the air unit was a good spot for it. So I'm just going to basically put that in. I want the antenna to ride right underneath there. So I'm going to adhesive that right to there. And now the shrink tubing I've opened up, and I can get in there from underneath right here. I can get in there and bind it, so that makes sense in the future. You know, anything you do, you want to do in the future. The air unit now has a Molex plug on it, and there's quite a few wires that are going to that. So we need to pull that off. Okay. So there's a little tab back here. You got to push down on that tab, and then you can pull this Molex out of here. Okay. Get the antenna out of the way. So now we have our Molex out, and the signal and signal ground wire is no longer needed because that's for the DJI unit. I'm going to put these two wires in a baggie for you. Okay, so I'm just going to depin those. And how you do that is you just basically pull up on that plastic tab, and then you can pull that out. In this case, you're going to have to do both of them at the same time. The wires are connected, okay? And then you don't want to push down very hard on these little tabs here. Don't push very hard on them, but you want to seat those back down in case you ever use them again. They'll be there for you, but like I said, don't push them all the way down or they can break off. So we'll go ahead and put this back in. Okay. Seat this back down in the tray. This here and this here we'll bundle that up and put a wire tie on it. So we're done soldering. I'm going to go ahead and remove my solder guards here. Okay. I always do this. I tell you what, there ain't nothing more frustrating than flipping a ball of solder right into your $30 motor on your race quad. You know what I mean? It always happens on your expensive motors. You flip solder in there and you bridge it, it's done. You ruined it. And it doesn't just flake off. Well, sometimes you can get lucky, but it depends on how hot it is. So the flight controller, we're just going to pop him back in place. Okay. And then off camera, I fixed this wire that was cut, and I shortened all these bolts up quite a bit. So this thing should be nice and tidy. I'm going to go ahead and get some wire tie action on this and get that tied off. Let me zoom out a little. All right, so we're just about buttoned up here. So that should ride nice. Well, I'll get everything put back together. Before I do anything further at this point, I've kind of got things where I want it. I'm going to go ahead and do a continuity check to make sure that we don't have any issues with what we did. I'm just going to take the hot here on this one, and then you're going to see that just go real quick. It might beep for just a second. And then that, as soon as that big fat capacitor is loaded up, that should be a done deal. Okay? So if you put on here and you're getting that, that's not good. You want to make sure that there's no continuity between your hot and ground. And then you can come down here to your hot and ground. Okay, all good. So we're ready to plug a LiPo into this. Got our props off and everything is secure. Nothing's touching or gonna touch. So I think we're okay to plug a LiPo in and check to make sure everything sounds off. All right. Wow, that is really loose. I put your battery on here, and that is amazing loose. So what you can do is, if your connection is super loose, just take a knife and stab down into these. You don't want to open them up very much because then you can't get the stupid thing that close on it. But if you stab down on that and you get these to open up a little. Oh, that ain't coming apart. There we go. Okay. So we're initiated. Everything's good. We're ready to go ahead and get the transmitter. 3-4 bars.
Welcome to Tango 2.
All right. So I'm gonna go into the menu here. I should change my resolution is matching this screen, so it's impossible to see. Let me see if I could change that real quick. All right, I've got my lighting and stuff set up now where you can see this screen without it flickering too bad. We're going to go ahead and plug in here. Okay, so we have a flashing green light, so that means it's ready to bind. So over on our transmitter, it says model. Okay, so now we can go to menu, and then it'll go Crossfire. The screen lighting is so intense and the lettering is so thin that it's virtually impossible to see this. There we go, right there, Crossfire menu. Okay, click on the wheel. It goes to Tango 2 XF. Click on that, and then scroll down one to bind.
Hey, just wanted to say real quick here, you want to look at these two things, power and frequency. In the United States, it needs to be set to 915. So before you bind, you want to get this set up. So set your power where you want it, 2500 or 250, and then 915 for USA.
And then you'll notice, let me get something to prop this up. See the blinking green light? So as soon as I hit bind, then it'll go into binding. That one starts to blink red. Okay, and then it says here, update micro RX. Okay.
Apologize to jump in here again, but if you see this missing file reload, I'm going to have a card in the top right corner. I have to put together a video. I need to get some more information to make it smoother. But if there's, basically there was firmware of 113 on this transmitter from the factory. So the stock firmware was 113, which isn't even in the list. So I'll have a card up here in the top right corner eventually to help you out with that. So let's continue on.
Hit enter. All right. So now that's updating. And we really don't want to mess with anything while that's updating. Now just so you know, I have this air unit unplugged. So the 12 volt on this flight controller, the 12 volts is not being supplied to this air unit, so this thing's not getting super hot. Flight controller, a little warm. The nano receiver, whatever, not really a big deal. But that air unit, or if you have a VTX on yours and you're doing this, you want to make sure you have a fan blowing on it pretty good to keep it cool. But right now, we're just letting this go through. Let's see, we're at 93%. Just kind of wanted you to... Alright, so RX is loading. Don't exit. See how it's rapid fire? And you can see the rapidly blinking. Alright, and then it says binding. This is blinking really crazy like. Alright, now it went back to slowly. So now...
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, so then telemetry recovered. Still blinking. Alright, so now, as far as I know, everything's done. It says bind. And here's the weird thing. See that screen? See how this is a solid... This is solid green here now. It's done blinking. The transmitter is solid green. And here, oops. See how it says right here, binding, right there. And then it cuts it off, but I'm pretty sure that says binding complete. So whatever. So solid green light, solid green light. So we're bound up now. Everything's ready to rock. So we can go ahead and exit out of here, and we could take our power off of this unit. Okay, I'll plug this in a minute and button all that up.
Telemetry lost.
Okay, and then so now we have some more option here. We have, it says Tango 2XF XF Nano RX, so you can do firmware to your Nano, and then Wi-Fi. So I'm gonna hit exit. Okay, and then I'm gonna hit exit again. All right, so I can hit. I'll try to get this screen lined up for you here. It's kind of aggravating me. Turned all the lighting down to kind of get this to work. All right, so I'll hit exit a couple times there, where we want to be, and then just click menu once, and then hit page, and then you can change your model. Okay, let me zoom in properly on this transmitter. We're done with the quadcopter. All that's done. All I have to do is plug this air unit back in and just button up some of this wiring. I'm gonna go ahead and fix this issue you got here real quick, and then we'll get this all put back together. And then once we're done setting up the model on the transmitter, we'll have to go into Betaflight. So let me go ahead and get the camera set for you to see the screen properly, and I'll set up the full model on here. One thing I want to show, I'm just going to show viewers here. Now, he and I had sat down and we kind of went through, like, where do you want things? So before you set your model up, you're going to want to know, you know, how do you want to hold this thing in your hand? What buttons do you want to do what? So this is a mapping of how I need to set it up for him. So that's why I'm basically doing what I'm doing. Alright, so we got our transmitter here. Let me go ahead and exit back out to where I was. Okay, you just hit menu once and then hit page one time, and then push down on your wheel, and then we're gonna call this Cinewoop, or I'm gonna wow, that wheel is really tender. Okay. So we're down in there, just hit page. And now flight modes. We don't have to worry about flight modes. And then inputs. This is where we're going to input each step of the way. Okay. Basically, we have number 5 here. So number 5 is the next input. See, these 4 inputs, TAER, that's something important we need to remember for Betaflight. So remember that channel mapping, your TAER. So right now with the 4 sticks, we can run our quadcopter, but we need to add things to it. So you wanted to be able to arm the quadcopter, so that's next. You wanted the modes. You want turtle mode, pre-arm, like all of these things to be set up in here. Okay, so I'm gonna do the first one in detail for you, and then I'm just gonna set up the rest of them. So we're gonna go into inputs, and this is the 5th channel. Okay, and I'm using this scroll wheel, pushing in on it to initiate the movements that I'm making. Okay, so call this A5. So use your scroll wheel to initiate the A, and then hold it down to capitalize or lowercase, and then click it again to move to the next spot. Spin real quick to go to the numbers. So this is the 5th channel, so that's hit exit, go down 1, and then we're just gonna name this arm. Now this is a very different from my QX7, so I'm not only trying to see this really small screen, hit exit, and then go down here, and then here's your, okay, so tapped in, that's what you want armed. So see how it automatically chose it. So then click on your wheel to initiate that, and then we're done. Hit exit, hit exit. So now that's a channel that you've completed. I'm gonna go ahead and set up the other channels. So I'll do your modes, turtle mode. I'll do all the other things, and I'll do it exactly like that. All right, so I've got all the inputs set up. So we're gonna do your arming switch, and then we'll have modes. So we'll have angle, horizon, and acro, and then beeper and turtle on the other switch, and pre-arm and air mode on the momentary switch. So we hit page, and you just go in and initiate each one of these. Let me just show you real quick. You just type in, this will be blank. You just put A5 in there, and you're ready to go. Okay, and then you have to do that for each one of them. So it initiates the mixers for Betaflight. Let me hold the page button down, go back to inputs. I'm just going to show you here. So the A8 is the input that I've given it, and then I've said pre-arm and air mode, and then you come down here and you click on that, and then you just push in on that momentary switch, and it automatically chooses that SE. If I were to use another switch, it would change to that one. If I use a different switch, it would, oops. Yeah, that wheel is really sensitive. See, I'm just changing different switches here, okay? And then if I want the momentary switch, which I do, it'll change back to what I want it to. So SE is the momentary switch. Okay, hit exit, 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 and then again, inputs. We need to change the inputs here. So we need to modify the min and the max of each one of these first 4 channels. Don't do 5 through anything else. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the only thing you're going to change. And that's why it's pretty important. In Betaflight, you'll see this 989. And then if I put the stick all the way in the top corner, you see it's 2012. We don't want that. We want that to be 1000 and 2000. So in here, we can change these. Let me do the first one. I just don't want to make this video is going to be so long. So let's edit the first one. Okay, and then we'll change our weight. So pull the stick all the way in the bottom corner. We know channel 1's our throttle, okay? If you didn't know that already, that channel 1 represents throttle. So pull your throttle all the way in the bottom left corner. And then we're just going to change this weight a little bit. You see how it's coming up? See, we're at 1001. We don't want that. 1000, kind of blinking one. Let's back off a little bit. And then see how it says 1,999? That's good. I don't want it above 1,000. I'd rather have it just shy of 1,000. So 98.9. I'm sorry, I keep using my finger. 98.9. And that, when I pull that throttle stick all the way in the bottom corner, it represents 1,000. Okay? Pull that throttle all the way down. Let's keep. Oh, that's weird. The bottom corner says 1,000, then straight down it says 994. Let's go ahead and see if we can go ahead. I just got the throttle straight down. All right, that's what we'll keep. Okay, now hit exit. Exit again. And now, if you want to, while you're in here, you can do the max. Okay, I guess I'll do that too. I'll do the min and the max of the throttle. I'm not going to film all of it though. All right, so click down on the wheel to initiate it. Put your throttle stick all the way up, as high as it'll go. See how it's 2012? See, in Betaflight, it'll say that too in the receivers tab. You don't want that. And see, with quadcopters, you don't use trims. Like the button, the trims on your transmitter, you don't want to use trims. This transmitter don't even have trims. Okay? But a quadcopter, I don't want to get into why. So anyway, initiate that with your wheel, and then back this down till it says 2,000. Okay? There. So 1,000, bouncing around a little bit, sensitive as it is. 99,000, and then 2,000. Okay, so exit out, exit out. So that first one is done. See, don't do 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't do those. Just the first 4. Okay, I'll show you in Betaflight. I'll leave it just that way, and I'll show you in Betaflight what happened. All right, I accidentally hit the wrong button there. All right, let me get back there. Inputs. Okay, next screen. Your page curves. We're not going to mess with. Logic switches, we're not going to mess with. Special functions, that's if you want this transmitter to shout out and yell at you every button and everything you do. You can assign voices, and it's wonderful playtime, but I'm not getting into it here. And then Lewis script, I'm not messing with that right now. And then you plug in your quadcopter. See where it says stop discovery. Okay, should say discover new sensors. So we can plug in our quadcopter right now. Okay.
Telemetry recovered.
And then we'll go ahead and initiate that by clicking down on the wheel. And it'll pull up all the telemetry data from the flight controller. And click the wheel again to stop discovering. So now you can see in here. Let me go back up here. So you have 45 and 42 as your critical low alarm. So that your transmitter, when you get low on your RSSI, so you start getting too far away, that value will shout out to you low. So if you want to, you can change this out depending on how far. Okay, so like, you want to go 45, and then maybe this one you want to push it out to 32. Okay, so hit page, and then in your telemetry data screen, so when you're flying, you can see data. You can display up to those 4 items. So I'm going to hold the page button down to go back, but you can display any of these into a data screen. So let me exit, and then in here, if you hold the page button down, see this is a telemetry screen. Okay, those 4 setups down. So right here, you can go in and you can set up, whatever. All right, just exit out of that. All right, and then I just wanted to show you the version that I put on here to get it to work. Okay. All right, so we have our transmitter all set up now. unplug the quadcopter. So now we have hold up. We're going to hold up on this.
Telemetry lost.
So hold in on that, and then we're going to push that in, and it's going to arm. As soon as we let go of that, that's going to turn air mode on. You're going to have your switches here for you have your switches here for angle, horizon, and acro. So disarm, you're going to hold in on this button for pre-arm. Okay, and then over here we have the first in the middle is going to be your beeper, and all the way down is going to be turtle mode. So you can disarm, okay, and then pull it all the way down to turtle mode. Pull in on your pre-arm, click there, and then you'll be armed to do turtle mode, so you can flip your quadcopter over, and then flip it all the way back here. So that's nothing. So that's all set up. And that's angle, horizon, and acro, okay. And then you'll have choices for this momentary switch and this switch. So whatever you want to set up for that. Okay, let's jump over to Betaflight and we'll get all those working properly. I'm going to plug the quadcopter in to Betaflight and we'll get this all squared up. And then I have to plug in for this flight controller. I actually have to turn the plug in the LiPo. So I have the air unit unplugged. Go ahead and connect, and we're just going to check orientation, make sure that we're bobbling around the way we should be. I'm not calibrating your accelerometer. Go into ports tab. So sure, we have UART1 as the UART that we soldered into. Okay, so RX1, TX1, that's what we put the Crossfire Nano on. So we have the serial RX initiated for UART1. So that's good. If you changed it or modified it, you'll have to pick which one you did it to and then come down here and save and reboot. Okay. And then go to configurations. And we're going to change this. See, we removed those wires. The signal wire and the signal ground wire. We removed it from the air unit. So now we're going to just pick Crossfire. We're going to come over here to save and reboot. And then we're going to jump back in. Alright, and then we're going to go to Receiver tab. Alright, see how the model is flipping around? That's because this is wrong. Channel map needs to be changed. Remember when I said it was important to remember these letters for Betaflight? TAER 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then hit save, and then the model stops. The other thing you want to kind of watch is the model drifting. You can see right now it's drifting. So that means the sticks aren't exactly true. See how this one's not at 1500, that one's not at 1500? Alright, so we have our channel map. So now we're going to just throttle up, throttle down. We're going to roll to the left, roll to the right, pitch forward, pitch back, yaw to the left, yaw to the right. You see that every time I move, that model moves. So you can sit here and you can fly that model. If you're not able to fly that model with your sticks, then something's not right. Okay? Alright. Alright, so we're going to check out our, so we're done with all this. You can, just before I forget to mention, remember how we did 2000 and 1000? So see the rest of them are at 2011, and we're at 1999, and then 1000. The others are 9888 or whatever. So that's what we did in there. So you can change the other three to make this 1000 and 2000 for everything. Okay, and then we have AUX 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if you hold in on the momentary button, so AUX 4 is going to be the button that we're going to actuate for your air mode and your pre-arm. And then turtle mode and beeper is going to be AUX 3. Your modes, air mode, horizon, acro is going to be AUX 2. and then arm and disarm is going to be AUX 1. So now we're all good in here. Everything looks good. Hit save. And then we're going to go to modes, and we're going to add a range for arm. We're going to add a range for angle, horizon. Look through here. We want the beeper. I'm going to solder a beeper on here for you instead of using the motors. Well, in tandem with the motors, if it'll just be a lot louder. I have 80 decibel beeper I'm going to put on here for you. Let's see here. Flip over when crash, add a range, and then pre-arm, add a range. And that's it for this run. So we're going to save that. And then we're going to go up here to the top, and we're going to say hide the rest of the garbage we're not going to use. Now, everything you can see here is auto. So let's push in the button for our arming. So I have it depressed. So when it's pushed all the way in, depressed, where you wanted it for arming, I'm going to slide this over there. So now that, let me widen this out just a little bit. So that is set up, okay? And then we disarm, it goes over there. Arm over here. So let's do angle. So we have our switches here. Oh. Auto. Switch 2. So horizon is going to be the same. So down in the default position, the buttons are pushed all the way up. So in default position up, we're going to make that angle mode. So if you want acro, you'll push it all the way down. If in the middle, you can see it slid over here. That's going to be horizon. So go ahead. I don't know why I just squeeze those in. Less room for error. Beeper. We have channel AUX 3, and it's right in the center where you wanted to switch in the center for beeper. So that's where we're going to put it. And then flip over when crash. So that's AUX 3 as well because it's on the same switch. Good grief. And then all the way down away from the default. So the default on this switch is going to be, all the way up, is not going to be assigned to anything. So the middle is beeper, and all the way down is going to be flip over when crash. Okay, and then all the way up is nothing. And you already know that if it's not an angle or horizon, if you have that all the way down and it's over here, it's automatically defaulted in acro. You don't have to set up an acro. And then pre-arm is 4. Slide down here. Oh, I needed air mode too. Let me pop that back on. Find air mode. Air mode, where are you? Alright, so we're going to hit save on this. Oops. Hit save. And we got to go back up to configuration, and we need to scroll down here and turn air mode off. Turn that on. Alright, so we turn off air mode here, so that'll give us a switch option. So go ahead and save and reboot. Go ahead and connect. Remember, I have my air unit, or if you're using a VTX, I have it unplugged, so nothing over here smoking hot. But it's getting warm. I have to put a fan on it here. So anyway, we'll go to modes, and we will look for air mode. So add a range. Okay. Hide that. Now, we know that AUX 4 for air mode and pre-arm, okay? That's the switch that we use. Okay, I'm click, 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 click. So when I push in on it, I want that to be my pre-arm, because when I'm initiating that button by holding in on it, that's a safety. When I let go of it, I want it to activate air mode, because I want air mode on all the time unless I don't want it on. When I'm landing or smashing into stuff, I want to disable air mode. Keeps the quadcopter from going berserk and burning motors and ESCs, and I don't understand. Anybody, you can argue with me all you want about having air mode on all the time permanently, but if you have the ability to take air mode off, you know, you're less likely to destroy stuff. If you feel like you're about to crash, you can kind of disable it, and you bump into stuff, it doesn't go berserk. So that's the way I roll. So everything's set up now. So if we pull in on our pre-arm, let me go ahead and save so everything over here on this side will light up as I do it. So hold in on my pre-arm, hit the arm button. Of course, it's red. It's not going to arm because I'm plugged into Betaflight. So once I unplug everything and plug the battery in, I can run it. Okay, so hold in pre-arm and arm it, and let go of pre-arm. Air mode comes on. I'm in angle mode to begin with. Sorry. Horizon acro. So now we're flying in acro. Got my beeper, and then flip over when crash. You're going to have to disarm. 400 phone calls. So hold up, flip over when crash. You're going to have to hold in on the pre-arm and arm it. And then you can run your flip over when crash and then disarm and then flip that back over. Beeper, of course, that's on. And we're rocking and rolling. That's everything. So this quadcopter's ready to roll. Let me look at one last thing here. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call this done. Let's jump back over to the bench. All right, we're back over here to the bench, and I still have the air unit unplugged. Okay, just going to put something on that to keep that from getting wound into something. Everything's cleared out of the way. Of course, we have our props off. Going to go ahead and plug in here.
Telemetry recovered.
All right, and then let the board initiate. Everything's looking good. Hold in on the pre-arm button down here. Hit the arm there. So see how we got throttle all the way down, and then you push in on that and it stops the props. So if you want to land, and of course you can take off, you know, here. If you let go of that, okay, you got to turn air mode off. You see them motors are going to get violently crazy. You don't want to do that without the props on. When you're on the bench, you don't want to really spool these up more than like 30%. I mean, you can if you need to test stuff, but honestly, it really, motors don't like to be ran without some sort of torque against them. But okay, so that's your air mode. So I'm going to leave air mode off, and then I'm going to go into acro. I'm just going to spool that up, and I'm going to listen to the gain a little bit. So that seems very smooth. I think this is ready to, I'm going to disarm. I'm going to flip all the way down here. It's hard to see with this antenna in the way I can see. So I'm going to flip this all the way down. I'm going to hold in on the pre-arm, because otherwise it's not going to do anything, okay? You got a pre-arm, hold that pre-arm in, and then arm it, and then let go of that. Air mode won't run on your, when you're turtle moding, okay? Be careful turtle moding. These motors will smoke really fast. Use it if you really need it. Disarm and then rearm so you're ready to go again. Okay? Angle mode is all the way up. So that's it. This thing's ready to fly. I'm gonna go ahead and button her all up, and I'm gonna hand it back to you. As far as flying this, I'll try to get some field video flight of this flying, but as far as I'm concerned, everything's rock and roll. I'm going to go ahead and button this all up, and I'll get a couple of, or a little show of what it looks like all buttoned up. All right, that's it. We got her all put back together. Got the air unit all buttoned up. All the ductwork back on. And then we have the antenna hooked up here. So we got it all bundled up tight. So that ain't going anywhere. And it's just underneath the landing gear. And then the battery lead, what I've done is I run the battery lower profile, and then I'm not going to plug it in because I got my props on. But basically just plug it in, make sure that you're getting your polarity right, and then plug it in. And then once it's plugged in, these wires, if you can see here, these wires are nice and tight out of the way, so shouldn't have any issues when you crash of getting those wires stuck in your props. Really kind of a heavy little bad boy, but we're all bound up, so that's a wrap, man. I already checked the air unit. I plugged it in before I put the props on and made sure that the video is looking good. So, all right. I appreciate you guys, hanging in there and watching this video, but this is all that needed done, and we should be good to go. And if this video helped you out, let me know. If there's any questions about anything you are seeing here, maybe I can help you out. Of course, I don't own this gear, so I will do my best to answer your questions. And if this video helped you out and you liked it, it entertained you, whatever, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you hated it, man, you give me a thumbs down. It all works. Enjoy the breeze. Have a good one.